Hey, everybody, welcome to Hold That Thought. I'm David Cruz. We had Jersey City Mayor Steve Fulop booked at the other place, but circumstances have us here today. So we welcome Steve Fulop to the show. Mayor, good to see you, man.
Good to see you too. We'll refer to it as the other place.
The other place, yes. So you've been laying low since the primary. Can you talk about the days immediately after that? Because you kind of went into seclusion, no?
I went into some seclusion. I
Yeah.
mean,
No?
look, I view myself, David, as I'm a realist. I'm not like a pie in the sky type of guy.
All right.
And going into election day, I would tell you that I sincerely thought that we were in a great spot. And there were a lot of data and indicators along the way that would probably reinforce that. I mean, the New York Times embedded a reporter with us the entire day. I think only with us the full day to get footage, all the press that was at the event the night before. I mean, 2 weeks before the election, Uber, which is a data company essentially, wrote $1 million check to a super PAC unsolicited that was supportive of me, 500,000 to Mikey, 500,000 to Chitterelli. All the data was supportive. We went into election day, and if you had asked me, I thought we were going to win. I thought the turnout was going to be 550 to 600,000. I thought that we would have gotten our 100 to 150, and we would have gotten through in the primary. And what happened was the voter turnout surged to 850. Nobody anticipated that. Even our opposition was managing expectations going into election day. So when it was over in 10 minutes, it was tough. I was like shell shocked, surprised. I've never been in that situation before. Um, I go home that election night. Probably the only person that called me, ironically, was Jack Chitterelli, left a voicemail. The next couple days and weeks were a lot of thinking about what's next.
Interesting. Jack Chitterelli called you. You want to share a little bit of what he said?
Yeah, I didn't call him back the next day. I texted him
Yeah.
saying that I appreciated the phone call and I wasn't in a place to talk. But I went home, I put my phone down and did my best to just get some rest. I was like exhausted, so to speak. And then the next morning, I had a voicemail from him. And I think it speaks to the fact that he is very, very effective on relationships and retail politics. I mean, I didn't know him, and I don't know him particularly well. And he called again like 3 weeks later to check out how I was doing, which I just thought was nice and thoughtful. And that's kind of where we are. And a couple weeks later, I kind of stumbled upon where I'm headed next at the Partnership for New York City. It was pure circumstances and luck, and I couldn't be more fortunate and excited and thankful for how things worked out, to be honest.
Yeah. Have you determined? I mean, you talked a little bit about the surge in voters and so on. Have you determined where things turned? Because for a long time, you were the only guy in the race, but then also you were the one you would. A lot of people said the most substantive campaign,
Yeah.
putting out all these white papers and so on. Where do you think it turned? Did
Yeah. I think that if you think through it and what my kind of strategic kind of decision making process was, I knew that starting the campaign, I had no natural base. The Jersey City was a natural base, but it's only 10,000 votes. There was no county with me. My message was Trenton needed change and very substantive on policy. And so I thought that I would front load dollars, be very clear about that, and then hope in the last 3 or 4 weeks that the super PAC or IEs pick up some of the spending. Cross your fingers on that, and you do your best to kind of telegraph that you're running out of money, and you hope that they pick it up. And my thought was that if I build around high information voters that are very issue oriented, whether it be the bear hunt or congestion pricing or widening of the turnpike, and are very clear and thoughtful about how you're going to move New Jersey forward, those voters, high information, issue oriented voters, will lock in on you. And if you didn't have money the last 3 or 4 weeks, those guys know who they're voting for. Okay. And what happened ultimately was we executed on all of that really well. We built to the numbers we needed to. The meet and greets worked. Single issue voters, and what I didn't anticipate was that if you got into the last 3 weeks and you were tuning in because A, we spent $100 million collectively, or B, because of Donald Trump, and you're paying attention to the different voters and doing research. I wasn't as visible in that last 3 weeks because strategically I might have made a mistake just not thinking about the electorate. And secondly, if you were tuning in and then let's say somebody like Mikey was just saying, I'm a Navy pilot, I'm going to fight Trump, and I'm the guy who is barely saying Trenton is broken, you're probably like, what the hell is this guy talking about? Right. And like, it just wasn't a fit at that moment. So I go back in time and I thought about it for some time and I said, let's say, I had $5 million more. Would the outcome have changed? The answer is no, because if I had $5 million more, I was still a very narrow message for a high information voter. So the way I could have changed it was have a broader message, but then it would have just been like Josh or a generic message. So I don't know what could have changed. Sometimes politics is just the moment in time. And for me, it just wasn't meant to be. And I'm okay with that. We
No
move on to the next
regrets.
chapter.
No regrets.
None whatsoever. I mean, I'm thankful. Maybe I'm looking at it from the perspective that I got a job that I think is amongst the best jobs in New York City and maybe in the region, and I'm thankful for that. Maybe I have that perspective on it, and if I was unemployed, I'd have a different perspective. But I really view that there isn't much I could have changed, and I'm comfortable that I ran the message in the campaign that I was comfortable with, and we had high energy on voter turnout that we wanted and volunteers because people were passionate about it. Nobody else had that, and I don't think there's a lot of things I would have gone back and done differently.
So you've not said a lot of nice things about Mikey Sherrill. In fact, you were critical of her throughout the primary and even after the primary. 2 weeks to election day now. Has she righted the good ship,
I
Sherrill?
mean, let me say this. I was very clear on election night, so June 10th. I stood on the stage, press was there, hundreds of volunteers, and I said I'm going to support Mikey Sherrill. I'm going to support the Democratic nominee, Mikey Sherrill, because it's important that we win. I had a volunteer get together, thank you, appreciation. Maybe 600 people showed up in July. I said the same thing. I said this is the reason why I think this is important. So I have not been ambiguous about the fact that I'm a supporter of hers. Um, but I do think there are flaws in the campaign. And truthfully, I mean, I haven't spoken to her since Election Day. And, people ask me why and this and that. And the reality is that it's her campaign. It is the responsibility always of the stronger to reach out to the weaker. She is the standard bearer for the Democratic Party of the state of New Jersey. She is running the campaign that she thinks is most effective, and she should reach out or however she thinks that's appropriate. And that's kind of where we are. So I do what I'm asked to do, and which is nothing. And so I'm okay with that. It's all right. I got a lot of time with my kids in Jersey City and thinking about what's next, and that's fine.
You said there are still some flaws in the campaign, or that there were
I
flaws in the
mean,
campaign. Do they
look, I
remain?
look, I was clear during the campaign that I thought that if you're running 8 more years of Phil Murphy after 8 years, I think you're gonna have a hard time.
Yeah.
And that's proven to be true. I said during the primary that I thought that if you're light on policy and can't create a clear vision, you're gonna have headwinds. And that's became true. I don't think anything I said during the primary was really wrong. I tried to be clear with people. I mean, I talked about the IHRA bill, and I got a lot of pushback from the Jewish community saying that right after the primary, it's going to be passed in Trenton. It wasn't passed in Trenton. What I said happened to be true. Okay, they had a BS hearing down there, a big show, and then nothing came of it. So I don't think I said anything wrong, and I think we still are in the same place as it relates to candidates. If you're being fair, you would say that if Trump wasn't in the White House, Chitterelli would be up by 12 points, and the best asset the Democrats have today is really Trump in the White House, ultimately in this election. And it's going to be a question whether people blame the affordability crisis in New Jersey around the president and the federal government or 8 years of Phil Murphy. And we'll find that out in November.
What about your thoughts on Jack Ciattarelli? You said he reached out to you after the primary. There is always a lot of talk in this race about how his Jersey bona fides are much more present than they are in her.
You know what? I see that in the campaign. I don't think it's fair, and I don't know how much voters care. I mean, we're a state of immigrants. Let's start there. Okay, a lot of immigrants here in New Jersey. That's number one. And number two is, I mean, we've had plenty of governors that weren't born in New Jersey. So is that a fair criticism? Probably not. I think he's been very, very proactive with with outreach across the state of New Jersey in some core Dem constituencies, and Dems have been at times lackadaisical and felt entitled. I think that's a headwind that we have. And I think the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks, a lot of things could still change. But again, nothing I said in the primary, I think, hasn't played out exactly how I kind of described it.
I remember talking about the Jerseyness of Mikey Sherrill. It wasn't so much about where she was from, but more about her relatability. I just as an observer have seen that she's gotten a little bit better at that, but that was a rightful criticism, don't you think?
Relatability is not necessarily about familiarity with geography in New Jersey. It's a personality thing. So she's
Yeah.
probably gotten more comfortable
Yeah.
on the trail and communicating with people and more comfortable with kind of articulating at least some of the positions that you've
Yeah.
seen. There were a lot of stumbles earlier in the campaign and she's gotten better. But I don't subscribe to the fact that if you're not born and raised and spend every day in New Jersey in your entire life, that it's a disqualifier. I just don't believe that to be true. And I don't think voters believe that to be true either. I think if you're familiar and they think that you care and that you understand their issues, you're going to be fine.
Says the guy who wasn't born in Jersey City, but won 3 elections in Jersey.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, the Jersey City people have been very good to me, and Jersey City is a type of place where there's a lot of pride. I mean, somebody who's born here and chose to move out 30 years ago, and me who chose to move here 25 years ago, the person that was born and raised here has more credibility than I do in the Jersey City culture. But the reality is that they've allowed me to be the mayor for 12 years, and it speaks to kind of the culture in New Jersey overall.
Yeah. What do you think of this whole the military records and the medical publishing company? Those two scandals, have they moved the needle at all, or have
I
they
don't think
raised
they've moved the
interest in the
needle, but
race?
I think that Democrats need to be careful. I mean, at the same time that they were saying release the Epstein files, they're saying don't release the files in defending Mikey. And there's probably validity to the fact that if we're being transparent on everything, just be transparent on everything. And there probably is more to explore in that military component. That's fair. Um, look, I don't know enough about what Jack Chitterelli did and the conversation around what he published and how he was compensated on the opioids and what he knew at the time. So I think it's a fair question. How evolved was the crisis at that point when he decided to insert himself into it? And you could have conversations. Do I think he's a mass murderer of tens of thousands of people? No. I mean, that's not a fair criticism. Do I think that there's questions around when he took money and how much the public knew about the crisis? It's a fair conversation. Is that going to be a deciding factor in November? The answer is no, because people care about their own pockets, right? It's affordability and who are you blaming? And that's really it at the end of the day.
Yeah. You have just a few months left as mayor. I don't know how you are about looking back at things, but can you talk about what you think your biggest win or wins were and what were some of the hardest losses
I
to
mean,
take?
listen, if you listen to the six mayoral candidates running here, you'd think I'm an absolute bum that did
Yeah.
nothing. And I
Yeah.
remind people, I mean, I was elected 3 times. Somebody here likes me, and I still poll favorable here. Um, Look, we changed the city in so many ways. I mean, the police department and crime has decreased. You can't argue that point. And the culture has changed. Development has moved away from the waterfront for the first time. It's everywhere in the city. We've done that. The health department was transformed. Animal control was transformed. How we're viewed nationally transformed. I think we built more affordable housing than anybody else in New Jersey, transformed. I mean, the city has changed in countless ways. We haven't been perfect, obviously. We've made a lot of mistakes along the way as well. That's normal. But I think Jersey City, you'd be hard pressed if you put, personalities aside, and some people don't like me, some people like me. If you put that aside, you'd be hard to argue that the Jersey City of today isn't better on most fronts than it was 12 years ago. I mean, when we came into office 12 years ago, there was development only on the waterfront. The largest corruption bust in the history of New Jersey was centered here in Jersey City. Affordable housing wasn't front and center. The health department was a third tier type of department here. Tax increases consistently. So, I mean, I think we've done a lot. We've built more schools than anybody else in New Jersey. There's a lot to be proud of.
What's the regret?
I mean, look, I think at times at the beginning, I probably could have been more empathetic on how I communicate. I think that if I'm being fair, the first year to 2 years, I put some of the leadership here that I hired that were not qualified. I mean, whether it was personal relationships, I mean, I thought at the time that they were qualified and they made mistakes along the way, which I bear the responsibility for. I think at times messaging around things could have been better, and those narratives have spun away from me a little bit. But by and large, there isn't a lot of things that you can regret because you can't go back in time. You do your best to move forward, and I've tried, and I'm thankful that I got 3 terms. I mean, 3 terms is a hard thing to get, David. I mean, if you think about it, people elect you the first term, they'll give you the benefit of the doubt the second term. That third term, people generally want change by 8 years. So the fact that they kept me here again is a good indicator.
Yeah. You must regret that the cost of living here has skyrocketed under your administration. Not that it hadn't already begun before you got here, but the gas pedal, somebody hit the gas pedal really hard
it's it's
and
an it's
cost
an
of skyrocketed.
absolute unfair criticism, and the reality is that it is a regional problem. It's not even a regional problem. It's a national problem. Okay, every city in the country has this problem, and we are a mile away from New York City that hasn't built nearly enough housing. So of course there's going to be pressure on Jersey City housing, even though we've built per capita more than anybody almost in the country. Okay, so I think we've done our share and punched above our weight, but I can't control utility prices. I can't control the Board of
But
Education. So
it's
when
the
people
rent,
highlight,
though.
what was that?
It's the rent that people are talking about.
It's
They're not
it's the
even talking
rent.
about the price of a carton of milk.
Okay, so put us it's affordability overall, but let's talk about rent for a second, right? Rent is directly correlated to supply and demand. If there's not enough supply and demand is high, prices go up. It's basic economics. So if New York City, which is the hub for the region, is not building adequate amount of housing, you're going to see pressure throughout New Jersey, and Jersey City will be the epicenter of that. This year was the first year that you've seen rents stabilize. It's largely because we've seen a lot of housing that takes years to produce come online. But the truth is that you will see pressure on the region until New York City builds what it's supposed to build. And it's not a Jersey City problem. I'm going to tell you what my mistake was. You wanted to talk about mistakes, is that this whole narrative around highest rents in the country is total BS. Okay. And I think anybody that is fair about it would tell you that, of course, we're not higher than Soho and Manhattan and Miami and Washington, D.C., San Francisco. Obviously, we're not. So why did that article come to be? Well, I'm going to tell you how that article came to be, is that this blog website ran a story of Jersey City, or they had a story of Jersey City being the highest rent in the country in a small subset of downtown at the time. And they excluded a lot of these other municipalities, other big cities in their sample size. And they said to me, do you want to comment on it or talk about it? And of course, we just kind of disregarded that. We were like, whatever, nobody's going to run with that. Then the New York Times asked about it, right? We saw this blog or that said that, hey, uh, Jersey City is the highest rent in the country. And our press department was dismissive of it. Why? Because we thought that the New York Times would never run that. And they ran it. And then all of a sudden, this narrative spun away. So it was kind of like a self inflicted wound, but it's not true. I mean, are we expensive? Yes. Are we the highest? No. I think that's fair to say. I got you on mute here. No.
Um,
Yeah, you're
that
back.
was
Go
my
ahead.
fault. Sorry. Um, so you mentioned this before about the other candidates running for office. I interviewed Musab Ali and James Solomon and Bill O'Day a couple of weeks ago and asked if they'd take an endorsement from you And I know that you saw this, that none of them would.
Yeah. The ironic thing is every one of them has asked me in the last 6 months for support. Every one of them. Okay. And I've said, hey, I don't know if I'm going to get involved for a variety of reasons. So, of course, at this point, they say, no, I wouldn't accept it because they don't think they're going to get it. But but the reality of the situation is that I think for the last 6 months, those of us that have had conversation, they've asked to sit down with me, spend time with me, solicit advice from me. Some of them asked for help on donations from me. So it's just, it's politics. And I understand that. And I'm not critical of anybody for that. My hope is that the electorate picks somebody that's competent and continues to move the city forward, which is not an easy thing to do. I'm just going to say that you can do a lot of damage here if you're not thoughtful around how to approach this stuff.
Yeah. So am I hearing you say that you're not going to endorse anybody?
I may wait to the runoff. I mean, it's going to a runoff. That's the truth.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if there is a benefit to doing it before the runoff. I do believe that the Bill O'Day poll that he released this week, which showed that it was a tight race between McGreevy, Solomon, and O'Day, is probably true. And the reason I feel that way is that pollster is Heart Research, who was my pollster for 12 years prior. And so he's got a lot of familiarity. He's also the Wall Street Journal's pollster, so it's a big national pollster. And he was right about Jersey City. He's got a lot of experience in polling Jersey City. And he was my pollster in the gubernatorial race. And he was right about the gubernatorial race, even though I would argue with him every step of the way, saying this poll can't be right. It's wrong. I'm telling you what I see. But he ended up being right. So I tend to believe it's a three-person race. I tend to believe that Musab has grown, but he's a distant fourth. And it's going to be about who's got the best operation coming into November 4th.
So you're going to go to work for the Partnership for New York City. You called it
Yeah,
a great job. Are you really going to leave New Jersey?
I am. I am. This time next year, I will have a New York City residents and a taxpayer in New York City and a voter in New York City, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Um, you know, I think in some ways, I feel blessed and fortunate. If you had offered me this job a year and a half ago and said you can't run for governor, but you got to take this job, I probably would have taken this job because it blends all of the things that I like about public service in the fact that it's policy oriented. You're around thought provoking and different people. You could have a meaningful impact without the things that I don't like without the things that really bothered me of politics. So I probably, if you're asking, I feel beyond fortunate in how this all played out. And I couldn't be more excited about starting in January.
Are you coming back?
No, I don't know. I mean, I think my days of elected office are in the rear view mirror. And, this is the type of job that I could stay at for a decade and continue to grow and have a huge impact. And, the challenges that present itself working in New York City. I mean, it's the epicenter of the country, the biggest city in the country, if not the most important city in the world. And having the opportunity to have a significant role in shaping the future, I don't know how somebody could not find that hugely enticing. And at the moment in time that New York City is right now, with a likely Mamdani mayor, it's even more exciting and the opportunity to have an impact. And so I couldn't be more grateful. It worked out, and it was a total luck of circumstances through a difficult interview process on how this thing worked out.
All right, things happen when they happen. Jersey City Mayor Steve Fulop, good to see you, man. Thanks for coming on with us here.
Hey, thank you. I'll talk to you soon, David.
All right, and that's Hold That Thought for this week. Stay tuned to this YouTube channel for more insights from thinking people. Leave your thoughts and questions in the comments section below. I'm David Cruz. Thanks for streaming. We'll see you next week.